there's something I've realized recently, and it's not easy to say at all, but I don't think most people actually change. Not because they can't or they don't have the strength to, but it's just because they just don't have to. And sometimes, if we're really being honest, we are the reason they don't have to. People always say they want to change, that they want to be more disciplined, more consistent, healthier, and just more mature, a better partner, a better friend. But wanting something and actually doing something are two completely different things, right? Because a lot of the time, people's words, they don't actually match, their actions, because it's really easy to say words, but it's not easy to follow through on them. And I've learned this really the hard way. I mean, I've been on the opposite side of both these things. And change doesn't happen when someone says they're ready. Change happens when staying the same finally hurts more than changing. And most people never let it hurt enough. That's the problem. Because human beings are wired to avoid pain. If your life is comfortable enough, even if it's dysfunctional, you'll stay there. If you can keep making the same mistakes and still have that same support system, if you can keep slacking and someone keeps covering for you, if you can keep being inconsistent and someone keeps forgiving you, why would you change? There's no pressure. There's no consequence. And there's no urgency. Because growth only happens when discomfort outweighs comfort. And a lot of us unintentionally protect people from that discomfort, I think, a lot of the time, because it's... And this is where it gets really hard, because usually the people we protect the most are the ones we love the most. And you care so much about them. You want to see them win. You don't want to see them struggle. Nobody wants to see somebody they care about struggle. So you stay. And you keep encouraging. You keep understanding. You keep giving grace. And grace, it is important. Support is important. But I think there's a difference between support and enabling. Because sometimes love becomes a safety net. And sometimes that safety net becomes the sole reason someone never has to stand on their own or change. There's this uncomfortable truth that I've had to accept. You can't grow for someone. It doesn't work like that. You can't suffer for someone. You can't want their future more than they do. And at some point, if their words keep saying, I'm going to change, but their actions never move, you have to ask yourself at a certain point, am I helping them actually? Or am I helping them just stay the same? And I think we all end up in these predicaments at one point or another in our lives with somebody. And this is where letting go comes in. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of just clarity. And sometimes the most loving thing that you can actually do for somebody is just take that step back. Not because you hate them, not because you want to see them fall, but because at a certain point you got to respect yourself, and because you understand that without pressure, nothing shifts ever. You can't force someone into growth. It doesn't work like that. They have to want it just as bad, but you can remove yourself from being their cushion, their safety net. And sometimes losing you is the first real consequence they've ever felt. The first real thing that shocks their system and wakes them up for once. And let's be real, walking away hurts. It hurts so much. It hurts to detach from someone you invested in for so many months, years, a decade. It hurts to accept that you can't save them. And it sucks, to sometimes have to just choose yourself when you've been choosing them for so long. But here's the part people don't ever talk about. If you keep lowering your standards to stay connected, eventually you forget who you're supposed to become. And if you stay at their level long enough, you're going to end up just like them. You're going to stop growing too. You start shrinking, and you start compromising more than you ever thought you would. You start becoming smaller just to maintain some sort of peace. And that's not love. No, it's not love. That's fear. And that's when you start to become comfortable, and then neither of you are growing anymore. That's when it gets really scary. Now, I'm not saying you give up on everybody in your life the second they start to struggle. Because we're all flawed. None of us are perfect. We all need grace. We all need support from time to time. And I don't think it's great to ever be alone. But there is a difference between someone who is struggling and trying and someone who is just comfortable and stagnant. You have to learn that difference. That's the most important thing, is learning that difference. And you have to decide how much is acceptable. How much can I realistically carry? How much of this is growth? And how much of this is me ignoring reality? Reality that they don't actually want to change. Because here's the truth. Change is a choice at the end of the day. And if someone isn't making that choice while you're in their life, I mean, you can't guarantee they will once you leave. You can never guarantee that once you leave, but you can guarantee this. You won't be stuck waiting. You won't be chained to their potential anymore. You won't be shrinking to accommodate someone else's comfort. And sometimes that's the growth that matters most, because you don't want to go down on a sinking ship. And at a certain point, you have to have some more respect for yourself. That's something I really had to learn. We love the idea of loyalty. We love the idea of standing by people no matter what. And I think it's great to have that, but loyalty without boundaries, that always turns into self-betrayal every single time. You can love someone and still let them go, even if it hurts. Even if it's the worst thing ever. You can care about someone and still choose yourself. It's possible, even if it's hard. You can want the best for someone and still remove yourself from their process, because at the end of the day, I mean, you are responsible for your growth too. You got to remember that. And you can't sacrifice your evolution trying to force someone into theirs. Yeah. Sometimes people don't change. Not because they're incapable of it, but because they're just too comfortable. I was in that situation, and I had to face my accountability for that. And sometimes the only way we grow is when that comfort leaves. That's the truth. And if that comfort was you, which a lot of the time it is, you gotta realize that. If this resonated with you and you're watching this, maybe you're not being cold. Maybe you're not being selfish. Maybe you're just growing and coming to that realization. You know, that finally putting yourself and your well-being first is important. And growth doesn't always look like holding on. Sometimes it just looks like letting go. And letting go, I think, is one of the strongest things, one of the most courageous things any of us can ever do in our lifetime. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to watch more videos like this, please feel free to like and follow or subscribe on whatever you're watching this on. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in, and you guys have a great rest of your day.